Chip Chantry, thank you so much for being with me
Thank you for having me, Aaron Hertzog.
here on the Have You Heard This podcast. You were one of the first guests on this podcast when I started it years ago, and I don't know if you know this or remember it. I don't know how much space you have in your brain for things that I've told you, but you are the inspiration for the name of this podcast.
Is that right?
Yeah, because like you're always at like when like run jokes by each other, you're always like, have you heard something like this? Have you heard this?
It's the two big questions. And because I teach the comedy class at Helium, and like I talk to people about like using each other, like use your peers, your classmates, and the people that you meet. And I always talk about the two big questions. It's always the two questions that I always throw out. You're a person that I go to a lot: Mary Rudzinski, James Heskey, Pat House, and it's always the two big questions. Is it funny? And have you heard this before?
Is this an idea that
is this a thing? Yeah. Oh, look at you.
Because
I still remember, I think if I remember correctly, I remember being in your apartment, and I think your apartment was not too far from where I live right now.
That is correct.
You were near
like Queens Village, I guess.
Yeah,
near
Queen
South
Village.
Street.
Yeah,
It was
Queen
like
Village.
7th and Bainbridge, I think, or something.
So you're very close. I'm a 10th and Christian. So
don't tell people where you live.
No, that's where I used to live. Oh no.
Yes. That is. You just moved to.
Yes, just moved. I'm moving to a secret location. So yeah. But yeah, I remember, and I think I remember the bit that we tried to go over, and I'm mad because I really liked the bit, and then I just never really worked it out on stage too much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the bit? Or have you listened to it? Or have you? I don't know.
I haven't listened back to it recently, but I know I have the file because I downloaded all those old files, and I'm going to release them as bonus episodes.
Oh, that's great. So if I remember correctly, the bit was, I think you did a joke about, and I know you've developed this into a very funny bit about money and about how like money just allows you to be an asshole. Like,
yeah, we talked about that. We did 2 episodes last time, and you helped me talk through that for me, and then I forget what
I feel like the one that I did was that like people are motivated by different things, and like if I get lazy,
spite. Yeah, spite. Motivated by spite. That's right.
And I always kept it on the back burner for the longest time. And then Mark Maron, who also has a podcast, he did a whole bit about how spite motivates him. I was like, I had it first.
Yeah.
And I just never.
It's documented. It's on.
And so it's documented. So a
podcast from 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And that will now be re-released at patreon.com/Aaron Hertzog.
Yeah.
Specifically for the Chip Chantry week of episodes that will be airing soon. But yeah, I'm so glad you're here. You're one of my favorite people to talk through bits with
right back at you,
because you think of it in those specific ways. I was one of the people in line who taught the stand-up class at Fit after you kind of developed and honed the curriculum for there. So I love the way that you think about jokes and think through ideas and stuff like that. And it was inspiring to me to teach that class in terms of like figuring ways to work on my own jokes.
It's interesting. I feel like it's one of the few things that I'm good at in this world, but I think growing up, I thought I was going to be a detective. That was what I wanted to do. I was going to be a detective.
Dude,
and like,
same.
Okay. Oh, really? No way.
That's why I went to journalism school, because I wanted to be a detective, but I didn't want to be a cop.
But yeah, but like, so a research, or investigative journalist.
Yeah.
And you see like, and of course this is amped up for it's television or movies. It's not real, but like you see these detectives that are like super, they can just look at a scene or talk to somebody, and they just pick out these different like, oh, she said this, so then that means she's guilty, or like I saw this one little thing and then that shows that the killer is this person or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I always wish I was better at that, but like I think if somebody's like, here's a bit idea I have, it's like my mind just kind of spirals out, and it's like all you do is you come at all the angles. It's like, well, you can do this angle, you do this angle, they're not all good, but it's like I feel like I have I can get into any bit and like try to figure it out.
I feel like that happens with me too. Like I will have a premise for a joke of my own, and then just get stuck. and like just kind of sit there with like a premise, and I won't know where to go with it. But when somebody else tells me a premise for their joke, I feel like I get super inspired, and it like gets things firing, and I hate it. I wish that I could treat my own ideas like they were other people's ideas.
Absolutely. And I think it's definitely a mental thing where it's like you're almost like afraid to do it for your own, but the stakes are so much lower for somebody else. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, I can just give you 7 ideas about this and it's fine.
Yeah, that's one of my like favorite like writing exercises that I go back to every once in a while, where it's just like write a bad idea, write something hacky, and like just get anything out and then like fix it later. But like because I'm not, I don't know, I hope I'm not a hack. Like my idea of like writing something that I think is hacky is probably going to be closer to good than it is actually hacky.
Absolutely. And like I feel like we have these thoughts about ourselves, and we sort of pigeonhole ourselves of like, this is what it is. I still remember Kent Haynes, the late great Kent Haynes, who doesn't do comedy anymore, but one of the just easily funny people I've ever met. Like it just came so naturally funny.
And it was also a great person to talk through ideas, saw all the angles and saw everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember that you were probably on this show, but it was years ago. It was like, I forget what it was called, but it was like we did a dark comedy night at Fit, where like everybody was doing, because like I think you and I are very similar, where I don't really care about dirty comedy. It doesn't do anything for, I'm not offended by it. I'm just, there's some brilliant dirty comedy out there, and that some people are brilliant with it. There's a lot of comics out there. It's just dirty. It's shock value. And it's not offensive. It's just boring to me. It's just like, I don't relate to that. So it's whatever. So I don't like dirty material, but I like dark material. Like I like going to those places. And I think you and I are similar in that way. And we were going to do this dark show. And I remember Kent was kind of nervous. He's like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. I don't want to be too dark, because, he kept things relatively clean and relatively over.
Yeah. Brilliant. But was the same kind of guy who could like think in those ways and could see why dark things were funny and could go there if he needed to. Yeah.
And he was very worried, and he did this bit, and it turned out, I think, to be not a signature bit, but it was the bit about him, about how growing up, little girls want to play house and little boys want to play guns.
Yeah.
And then it's such a funny bit. And it turns out, like, I think he thought it was going to be super dark, and it wasn't. In his mind, it was, but it came out maybe a little darker, but he did it on stage a lot, and it completely worked.
Yeah. He didn't just keep it to the dark shows.
Yeah.
What's now that we got into the weeds of stand-up comedy and really set ourselves up of how much we think about this stuff.
Yeah.
What idea did you bring to the table?
Okay. Well, I think it's, just being out of comedy for a year and a half, we're all sort of coming back to it at the same thing. And it's just like, I'm getting a little bit older, and it's just like, what can you say anymore? And people are like, it's like, I feel like, so here's my concept. It's like, you can't say anything anymore because people are so, like woke, if you want to use that word. People are so woke, and people get so offended, but like by the things that I say, but yet like people have like pronouns that they want me to use. And I'm like, I'm supposed to use these. No, I'm totally kidding. What if that was the bit that I was going to do? What if that
I was waiting for your turn on it? I was waiting to see what your turn on this would be.
Aaron, what if that was? What if you were like, oh, that's an interesting. That's an interesting. That's an interesting new premise. I haven't talked to Chip in a while. Chip's
a little different than the last time I talked to him.
He seems like he's got some different views.
Yeah.
By the way,
I trust you so much that I was just waiting to hear what
you're going to be like. Okay, maybe it'll go somewhere. Well, thank you. I'm glad I didn't get you too nervous.
Yeah.
By the way, I still feel like there's so many. Anytime I hear a comic, not anytime, most times I hear a comic like, you can't say anything anymore, and this whatever. And then they go up on stage, and it's the hackiest material in the world. It's just, what were you gonna say?
Stereotypes that they heard in other places that like
I did. I'm not gonna
things
mention
they
names.
got out of the Big Dirty Joke Book in 1984.
not to get too far off the topic, but I'm going to. A couple years ago, I was in Vegas with my lady, and we saw a comedy show. My friend, I'm not going to mention these names, but my friend was just happened to be
No
in town, was
names.
doing stand-up.
Okay.
There was another comic on the show, so not my friend, but another comic who turned out to be a very nice man. We talked to him afterwards. You would know his name. He was on television for many years, and he performed.
Andy Rooney.
Mr. Andy Rooney. Don Knotts was there. No, so this gentleman was on TV for many years, and he did like 40 minutes, and it was the most like stereotypical, like, first of all, it was like the front row, and I think he might have had them set it up this way, where there was like a black guy, a woman with big boobs, an old couple, a Middle Eastern guy, and he just kind of went down the row and just like was like stereotypical, and like they were all laughing and stuff like that, but it was like the most stereotypical. He literally said, I'm not going to say the word, and I don't even want to get into it, but like, let's just say there is a slur for somebody who is a homosexual. Let's just say that. And I bet you
why would there ever be such a slur for such a type of person?
But he said, boy, it's hot up here. I'm like a blank eating a corn dog. I'm sweating like a blank eating a corn dog. And I remember my wife and I both like gasped, and it wasn't that I was offended. I wasn't offended by it.
You just couldn't believe somebody would say something like that.
It's like and here's the thing. I wasn't offended as a human being, as I was offended as a comedian.
Yeah.
I'm like, you wrote that joke or heard that joke in 1987 and just haven't changed it since. Like, it's not offensive. It's just lazy. It's just like, these were the jokes that you were doing in the late 80s, and you haven't updated your act. Now, in his defense, this is Vegas, and it's like this middle American crowd of like, people with fanny packs from Iowa. Aaron, ask me, was he murdering?
Was he murdering?
He was murdering. I mean,
they were just rolling in the aisles.
But it was just so, I'm just like, like, and it's like he's still saying it, and people are loving it. And it's like, oh God. But anyway, I digress.
He probably says it with love. He's sweating like a fella eating a corn dog, and like,
yes, it was fella. That was the F word that he used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? You would think that like
you should use that. Oh, you should do that bit. Like just like literally word for word, just be like,
like next time like a fella eating a corn dog.
Yeah. I'm it's hot out here. I'm sweating like a fella eating a corn dog.
Just a fella, just one of the guys.
Just a chap eating a corn dog.
Why would you sweat even? Now I'm digging too hard. Why would you sweat?
We're doing his work for him now.
Yeah. We are. We're breaking down his idea. I don't know why a gay gentleman would sweat while eating a corn dog.
Nope. Those are the questions you don't want to ask.
I mean, because a corn dog, it's at a carnival. It's the summer. It's hot.
Probably you're sweating. Climate.
Yeah.
I feel like anybody would.
Corn dogs are hot weather food. They're not cold weather food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why,
If you're looking for a title of this episode,
plus all the
corn dogs are hot weather food.
All the nitrates from the hot dog.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you're sweating. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to apologize to this gentleman then. His joke is completely on target.
It is. Yeah. It has
really
nothing. Is. Yeah. It has nothing to do with the shape of the food and, the fact that, Yeah. We figured it out. Well, that's the episode.
That's been thank you for helping me out with that. It's been weighing heavily on my mind.
Chip, what is your idea?
All right.
What would you like to talk about?
Let's jump into it because we're going to go dark a little bit. We're going to go silly, but dark.
My favorite.
I hope this isn't against the rules. This is a joke that I have, a partial joke that I have done on stage a select handful of times to very mixed reviews. Sometimes
that's like one of the perfect things for the show.
Okay, good.
Because it's like something that you think is funny and you think is there, but you haven't fully unlocked it yet.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like what I have is almost like the intro to, it's like the first setup joke to the bit. Okay. So we'll say this, just to give my history and biography, almost a year ago to the day, my wife and I got our brand new dog, Franklin, our friend Carl, our mutual friend Carl, who you know, Hertzog, his sister found a dog up near Temple University, somebody's alma mater, yours.
Yes.
And found this dog. Somebody tied him to a fence up like right by Temple University and just left him. And they found him, and now he's ours, and he's the best, and he's great. So happy ending. We've had him for almost a year now. He's great. Back in 2021, we lost our old dog Stanley.
Rest in peace to the god Stanley.
Rest in peace, the big S. So here is the way I get into this bit. And again, I say, I kind of set it up like that. I'm like, so, we have a new dog now, but back in 2020, we lost our old dog. And by lost our old dog, I mean, he died. And by he died, I mean, we had him put to sleep. And by we had him put to sleep, I mean, we paid someone to murder our dog.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm an accessory. And I'm still guilty about it. Like if I did that to my uncle, I would be in prison right now, but apparently it's okay for a dog. And I still feel guilty about paying someone to come to our house and murder our dog. Okay. So that's kind of the into it. And then the one thing that I want to talk about, I think, is that this was during COVID. We literally paid this service that you can instead of like taking him to the vet to have him put down, he was very sick at the end, of course. We actually paid someone this service that they come to the home and they do it right at the house. Okay. And because of COVID, we actually did it behind our apartment. We have this like little area. It's like this quiet little area. And we were able to do it there. And the worst part about it was that it was the best situation for the worst thing ever. Like it went way better than I think either of us expected. First of all, very inexpensive, which that's a
little fishy.
Yes,
that's right? Like one of those things that you don't want to get a deal on. You want to pay you want to pay top dollar.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm literally writing stuff down right now, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, not good. But yeah, it was a deal.
You don't want to use a Groupon.
Yes. And because like, who would, let's go in on it together. Yeah. So, but the lady was very professional. She did a very nice job. And like, she did this thing where she like put his like paw in like clay. Like, you remember you do like a handprint thing? Like, like a paw print thing, and did that. It was very nice. And it was like very peaceful and whatever. And then she just left. And it's like, I want to review her and like go on Yelp. But like, what do you? It's like
this lady's the best dog murderer.
Yeah, she's the best dog killer in the world.
5 stars at killing dogs.
Yeah. So that's the bit that I think I just wanted, because it's like I feel like people don't talk about it too much.
Yeah, it's like a sad thing that could like, when you first get into it, it could be pretty sad, but the more you say like relatable things that are funny and like touching in the right ways, like people will like be on board, and like it'll be like a cathartic type of laugh for them, because like other people, experience the same thing and go through the same type of feelings, and like, kind of like it might be weird to talk about, and like you're giving them permission to laugh about it.
Right. And like that, and because I definitely, like I said, I get a very mixed response. Like sometimes if it goes all right, it gets a big cathartic laugh. And then other times it's like, we're not ready to laugh at this right now, So I think it's like, I got to break that ice and then get into it. And then if it's like a story about that, or, I mean, I don't know if there's much of a story there, but like, I mean, I can tell the story of the event.
Setting it up as a story, or like, like using a story format will kind of make it personal and personal to you, that allows other people that like step away from it. So that they are like laughing at your experience while also being able to relate to certain parts. Like that might be a good framing for it, because then you're like giving them permission to laugh at your experience while at like reminding them of their own,
And there was something else that I want to mention too, that I could add to this. I did this once on stage, I think, but so the back of our apartment is just like, it's basically like a parking area, but it's like we can have like sort of a sitting area, right? So it's sort of there's a wall next to us. It's fairly, and it just goes, it's on the back alley. So it's like, you don't get much traffic back there. It's kind of nice and quiet. And that's where we did it. And it was kind of shady. And
you're right. That is like the best case scenario of like having to do something. Like you don't have to like put your dog in the car and like have like a sad drive somewhere where you're like
right.
you're like at one of the like saddest things you could possibly do. You have to like drive through traffic and hope you don't get in an accident where like you hurt you're like, because you're so upset. Like
yes.
Driving when you're upset is terrible and it's like unsafe, and it's like you don't want to accidentally murder your dog on the way to on purpose murder your dog.
You'd save money though, I guess. So
yeah, except for like the car, the fees for like, messing up your
car. Right. Yeah. But it's, but yeah, like that's the thing. Like it was very nice. And like they even say like some people won't do it because they're like, if you do it at your house, it's like you'll always associate like that part of the living room with like, that's where your dog's at. But like we did it out back, so it kind of like it wasn't like in the house, but it was right there. So it went well. But here's the thing. So the back of our place, it goes on to like this little tiny alley, and then there is a row of houses on the other side of the alley. So it's this nice little picture, like Rear Window, almost like Hitchcock's Rear Window, like that kind of situation. So it's almost like, there's people across the street in
who are watching you.
Well, that's the thing. We're up there and we're sitting there, and everybody, there's like 5 houses across from us. They all have roof decks. Nobody ever spends time on a roof deck ever. Like you never see anybody up there. They pay money for it, but it's either too hot or too cold, or you don't have time to do it. Nobody's ever there. And the first time I ever saw anybody on one of those roof decks was this one guy who I've like never talked to. He's been like my neighbor across the alley for like 5 years. Never once talked to him. And he was just like standing there watering his plants, looking down on us, murdering our dog. And I just like looked up at him and we like locked eyes. And it's like, we're kind of crying, teary-eyed, and everything.
Yeah, of course.
Like, what are you looking at? You pervert, you just sicko. And like, I think he realized, because I don't think he realized what was happening. And then it's like, oh, this is what's happening. So it was the most awkward situation. And ever since then, he's been very nice to me.
How is he to Franklin, the new dog?
He doesn't make too much eye contact. I don't think he wants to get too close to him because he knows what happens over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's funny to call Franklin your new dog.
Yes. Yeah. New and improved. The second one, the next generation. It's he's the gritty reboot. He's 3 hours long and I don't want to sit through him. Yeah. So that's, and I'm just trying to think of like other angles to go. Like, is it I love the Groupon idea. Is it like the Yelp review?
How have you tried to do it so far? Just like talking about it as an idea or talking about it in story form,
So I have a chunk about Franklin, my dog. So it's almost like I might like do a joke about Franklin and then be like, well, we got Franklin last year. And then I do the joke about like paying somebody to murder our dog. And then I just sort of, then what I do is if they laugh, I'll tell the story a little bit more. And if they don't, or they're nervous, I'll just go back into more stuff about Franklin. Some new stuff.
It's like a little bit of a gauge, like,
it is.
Because I think that's like, it almost is something that you have to like kind of like tiptoe in to like get everybody on board with, like if you're gonna do the whole story, where it's like doing jokes about like Franklin, like your dog, and like how the joy he brings in your life, and like him being like fun, and how dogs are like good companions, and whatever your jokes about him are, I'm sure they're not mean jokes about how dogs.
No, they're great. It's very
exactly
fun jokes.
And then like maybe like slowly transition into the idea by like talking about how like we all accept that like like this is something that I've heard done before, but like something like small about the idea that like having a pet is like signing up for like having one of the worst days of your life at some point, like every happy thing that we do, everything that brings us joy in life is like signing up to have like one of the worst days. And the more joy you get from something, the worse it's going to be when it is finally over.
So that's why you should just keep your pets at an arm length and not love them too much. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah, it's like
just like protecting yourself from feeling, so you don't ever have to have like the bad feeling.
Yeah, like just calling the dog like, is he like number 12? You know, like it's just not. Well, we're not going to name him. It's like a farm. Yeah, like you just.
Yeah, but I don't know how much that's been like already explored.
I mean, I think that's been done a little bit. Like I remember, like, I think Louis C.K. did a joke about that, where it's like, oh, we got a dog. It's like, oh, I just got, like you kind of said, it's like, I guess got us the worst day ever in 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is like something where like that, like something like that sort of transitionally will be maybe helpful, but without making it like a whole bit.
The whole
like,
thing.
Yeah. And I think like you already kind of talked about it a little bit, where it's like, I've been calling him my new dog because we had an old dog. What do you think happened to him?
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. He moved to Vegas or something.
He learned a new trick.
Yeah.
They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but there's one that you can.
You can play dead. Yeah. That's great. And there's something I was just thinking about. You said something about the new dog. What was it?
I said like,
oh, I know what it was. It's like, because it's like you also put a lot of stock into it too, because like my wife and I, we don't have kids and we're not planning on having kids. So it's like, so we get like way into our dog. Whereas like, I think some people, maybe if you have kids, it's like, there's a hierarchy maybe where it's like, it's like, God forbid something happens to a kid, but it's like, well, a dog, you expect it, or it's just like, oh, it's just a pet. So like, whatever.
It's not as, it's maybe not as devastating, comparatively.
Right. Exactly. Like literally, like tonight I was sitting on the couch with my dog watching TV, and he was like sitting up. He was like sitting like a toddler would sit, like with his like back against the back of the couch, like sitting up.
Yeah.
And like I had my arm around him, and like my wife took a picture and I just like sent it to my parents, and it's like their grandson, and that was just like, and I remember too, like I remember the day like that it happened, like I had to call my mom to tell her that we had the dog put to sleep, and like we knew it was coming. He was sick. So like everybody knew that he wasn't too well, but like she just like fell apart, so it's like, it just ripples through, like,
everybody. I see posts from people I barely know on like Facebook, and who are like talking about like, oh, we had to put our dog down. Oh, it was our last day with our pet. They crossed over the rainbow bridge. All that.
By the way, that's my least favorite phrase ever.
I know, it's terrible. It's really bad.
I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's so corny.
It's the worst.
So bad. Yeah. Yeah, your dog's dead, man. It's dead.
Yeah.
The rainbow bridge.
Yeah.
But like that's something that I feel like I don't know, most people would be mad if you made fun of.
Right.
It's like, it's just like a nice thing that makes people feel okay. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like a nice way to say it, and we're like, no, be serious. Be serious about it.
One joyful thing. Yeah, it's like you can say there's no God and we're not going to heaven, but like dogs definitely do. Like dogs.
There is actually a bridge made of rainbows that they cross over. And
maybe dogs go to heaven and we don't. Like we just die because we have no souls. But like dogs
have souls.
Dogs have souls and they go to heaven. Like I think that's, except like dog hell. It would just be like, I don't know who would even go there. I don't
just
think
like the Holocaust dogs.
Yes. Yeah, they would. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just those ones.
They were just following orders to get treats though. So yeah.
All dogs that like experiments are named after. All animals that experiments are named after. Pavlov's dog, Schrodinger's cat. They're all in hell.
Yeah. Yes. Even if they contributed to science.
Yeah, whoever created monkey business, that monkey, whatever monkey first conducted business, they're in hell.
Yeah. By the way, I gotta look this up real quick. So hold on. If you want to talk or something like that, I got.
Yeah.
I wrote a joke that I thought was.
Chip's doing research.
I'm doing research. There was like this story that came out recently that here it is. So Schrodinger, I think Schrodinger, what's his name?
One of those.
Yeah, it's like the cat.
The guy with the cat.
It's you know those jokes where it's like, again, it's like I don't want to make fun of certain things, obviously, but like when there's always that opportunity for just a play on words or a joke that you're like, I'm not making fun of the topic. I'm just making it it opens up for a joke. Right. And I commented, I think I put it on Twitter and I wanted, but there was an article that came out recently. So like Schrodinger's cat, like he was from like the 1800s or whatever, or I guess 1935. Right.
Okay.
So apparently this just came out or it was like whatever, like, but there was articles recently that like basically he was like, let's just say he was a sexual predator and abuser of possibly children. Okay. Schrodinger, like the scientist, Schrodinger, right? And so
I did not see that, or I wouldn't have referenced his theory.
Yeah, but like, but it's like habit. And so it was like, like the thing was like, turns out Schrodinger, the father of, this is literally, it's from the website Futurism. The title is, turns out Schrodinger, the father of quantum physics, was a pedophile. And so I posted it and I just commented, maybe he was and maybe he wasn't.
Yeah.
Because that's the cat joke.
Because that's the
I'm not making fun of
his famous theory.
That's his famous theory. And so
if you put Schrodinger into a room with a child at the same time that child is not molested.
Yes. And to see, and like that, and that's the thing where it's like, that's the hard thing about, and again, going back to the joke I was making about like, can't say anything anymore. I don't believe that at all. And I don't think that's true at all. But like, there are those instincts that we have as comedians sometimes where it's like, oh, but there's a perfect joke here. Like mathematically, I think we are scientists to a certain sense. Like, well, mathematically, this works. Like this joke, maybe, and then you have to
weigh. Yeah, you have to weigh what the like, I don't know, intent, or like weigh what the like, you know.
My favorite person on Twitter, who I think is like the funniest person ever, is do you follow Blaine Capatch on Twitter?
Yes.
Okay. And I've never met him personally. We've gone back and forth on Twitter. We've talked once or twice, and just basically me just being like,
just talking about him the other day with a group of other comics. Yeah.
He's one of these people who is just such a tight joke writer. And he's like, because his Twitter is just so funny, but like he's written on so many shows where it's like, I feel like he's somebody who can get away with so much because the intent isn't bad. And you can see that he will post some things maybe are political or whatever. And you can definitely tell that he's like a good guy, but it's like, he'll have jokes sometimes that are again, just about, and it's like, I feel like this is what I used to do a lot. Not that I'm that funny, but like where you just sort of make fun of the situation. It's like, oh, there's a way to make this cartoonish,
without making fun of people who are hurt or
kicking them down. It's like, it's like the George Carlin thing of like, you can make fun of anything. Like you can make fun of anything. Just like, I'll prove it to you. Like you go, so it's like, you're not kicking somebody while they're down. But like I've seen him do that sometimes where it's like, there's just a joke and you're just like, it's so funny. That angle is so funny, but you're not kicking that person down, or even really like, you're not even like weighing in politically or socially on the thing. You're just like, here's just a joke that I saw in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. So bring it back to you. One thing I was thinking about, that's like a connector between your dogs is that like how, because like getting a new dog right after having to put your old dog down, that's like a big step.
Oh, it was a big step.
Because it's like, how long do you wait? Like, how long do you like, is it like, because if you get a new dog right away, it's almost weird and strange. It's disrespectful to your old dog. It's like, and it's almost like like trying to like fill a hole in yourself like immediately, and like
Huh?
then what are your expectations, like if you do it too fast, what are your expectations on the new dog to like fulfill like what the old dog did to you, and like you're like projecting, you know, Stanley onto Franklin in ways that like you shouldn't, and like
Oh,
expect things from him that yeah.
that's great because he's definitely because they are sort of similar in they're both mutts, but like they have some breed crossover and they're about the same size and they're similar,
Mhm.
but like Franklin's a very different dog, and he's Stanley was like a little gentleman who just kind of like hung out and sat there and was just like a good boy, and now Franklin is more of like a dog. He's like chases other dogs and like barks and plays
Yeah.
fetch and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. Like he's like way more
And
athletic.
I'm sure you love Franklin just as much as you love Stanley in unique and different ways. But what if you would have liked Franklin way more? And then you're like, well, why'd we wait so long to get rid of the last one?
Yeah, geez, we could have just cut our losses. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is that thing where it is like I think that's the worst part too. Is like you have to decide when to make it happen, like when to
Yeah, because as
throw the
like
towel in. And
it's not
that's
like any other relationship, right? Like if you break up with somebody that you're dating, or like it's like there's something there, it goes two ways. It's like something didn't work out, two people grew apart, like two, you know what I mean, like
yeah,
whatever the reason, you know. But like with a dog, it's like your job as like someone who has a dog is just to make that dog's life the nicest you can, you know, like
yes,
that's, and it's like the dog provides you with companionship and like friendship and things like that, and love, and like, you know, it's unconditional on like the dog's part, but like it's all on you. Like the dog has like like you can't ask the dog, there's no say, there's no it's not you, it's me, it's all them, it's all
yes,
them being old and being a dog. Like
yes, exactly. And it's pressure, and because like that was part of the hard part, because like not only are you upset that the dog's gonna die, but like you have to decide when it's gonna happen, and like it's like surfing, like you have to ride that wave of like you want to keep them around, you don't want to like do it too soon.
yeah, you don't want them to like not have good quality of life, and like
Right.
yeah,
But then you
uh-huh.
don't want him to be too sick at the end. And like that was like the worst at the end. Like the worst, like the last week was just like, he's really not doing good. So it's like,
Yeah. Did you do
so
any did you do any big things like before, like, you know, like, oh, like feed him a big steak, or you know what I mean? Like things that people do, like,
so you see those like videos or whatever. And like, that's like,
yeah, like we had a perfect day with like, you know.
he was so not like so bad at the end, but like it was basically his liver. He had he cancer because so he had surgery to remove. He's this little guy. We found this lump and he had a tumor on his liver. They said it was the size of a grapefruit. This is a
Oh
19
my
pound
God.
dog.
Yeah, that's a small,
It's
yeah.
and it was huge. So that was back in the fall, and the surgeon was great. She's like, we got like I think like 85-90% of it. That's
Wow.
all she was like, it was so bad. She's like, I almost sewed him up right away again. Didn't even try because it was like, this is just a lost
Yeah.
cause. But she did get most of it out, but she couldn't get like 15-20% of it out or whatever.
Hmm.
And so she knew that she's like, look, it's going to come back. It's going to continue to grow. He might have a year. He might have like a couple months, like whatever. We don't know.
But
Uh,
yeah.
so like we got him back after the surgery and it was like pretty rough. But then like after like a week, he was like, we took him to the woods that he loves, the Wissahickon woods that he used to run around in and everything. And we're like, well, we'll
Hmm.
take him back this one last time. This is like a month after surgery. And like, we'll just walk around. He was tearing around that place. Like he was like, it was
Yeah.
almost like he was better. And we're like,
Hmm.
holy shit. And he was great then. So like, we got to do that. And then for like, I guess about like 6 months, 8 months, he was like pretty good. And then it started going downhill.
Then
And
it
like
started, yeah.
the last like week or two when it really started to turn, like we couldn't even feed him. We tried to feed him anything. He wouldn't eat anything because he was just like, it was his stomach. So he just wasn't, he couldn't eat.
Yeah.
But so yes, we couldn't do that. But we tried to,
Yeah,
we
it
spoiled
is
him the
like
whole
a,
way.
yeah, like a very delicate like dance that you have to do, where like you want them to have like the quality of life as long as possible, but like not go too far into like the suffering. And like, yeah, it's almost like when people post those things where it's like, oh, we fed him like a bunch of steaks and all the candy he could eat or whatever, you know, and like he ran around the park. It's like, you jumped the gun, man. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. He was like doing, yeah. What are you doing? Like, he seems like he was fine. Yeah.
yeah. And I think there's like something about like, I don't know. I think there's always a level of judgment in like terms of like what other people do for their pets or like how they treat them or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Like, especially like, because it's like so like you see people who like, you know, like raise a bunch of like, you know, their pet needs surgery and it's like very expensive and like they have to raise a bunch of money for it. And if you're like, you know, like I definitely remember when I was younger and like just kind of like more hardened to it and like maybe didn't have pets of my own. It's just, or like, you know, money was like I had a different relationship with money or whatever. Just like, well, that ain't worth it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
say goodbye, like, well, see you later, puppy, you know, or whatever.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like
That's a
I
big part of
totally
it.
understand just like wanting to keep a pet around as long as possible now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
as long as it's like, you know, humane to the animal.
Right. Yeah. This is a hilarious bit, isn't it?
Uh, I think it is actually.
Yeah. Like, I think,
I think it really, and I don't, like I said it before, I think like maybe trying to put it into like a story,
yeah.
like a story is going to like, you know, because you're good at that, like breaking it down, like getting to the different like parts of it. And I think
Mhm.
that like, you know, you have the like, you know, have a new dog because of what happened to the old dog, the like thing of like bringing somebody to your house to do it,
Yeah.
like little moments along the way. I know one of your favorite bits, because you put me onto this bit in terms of like crafting a story, is that Brian Regan like going to the hospital bit.
Oh, it was great. Yeah.
And it's just like, if it like structuring a bit like that, if you can, in like a story, is like there's no better bit, like if you have a story that you're trying to write,
Yeah.
than watching that bit and just being like, oh, here's how you milk every single part of a story for
And he just
all that it's
walks you through
worth.
story, just freezes each moment, and then like
Yeah.
says, okay, we're going to talk about this moment now, and then breaks that down and
Oh,
then moves it. And
that's actually one of my favorite exercises that I used to do with people. And if you want to do it, we can do it. Tell me the story, right?
yeah.
Just as you would like tell it, like, you know, you can say funny jokes in it or not if you want, but like I will stop you when I have like whenever my brain is triggered to be like, I want to know more there, or that's something where you can go deeper.
That's a great idea.
I'll stop you and
Yeah.
like we can like, you know, explore
That's
anywhere.
apparently what Christopher Titus, who's like, like comedy storyteller,
Yeah.
does. Apparently what he does is like he bullet points his stories. So there might be like, let's say like 25 facts in a story. Like, I drove to the mall.
Yeah.
I got out of my car. I walked through the mall. I got to the store, like,
Yeah.
and
Where are
then,
the jokes for each fact?
and he
Yeah.
tries to write a joke for every single fact. And obviously he's not going to use all of those because that's be 25 jokes. You're not going to find everything funny, and that's just overkill. But like, even if you use 4 of them and you
Yeah.
get 4 really big
It's 4
punchlines in
extra
that story,
punchlines. Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff where it's just like those type of writing exercises. Like I just try to keep like a diary of those exercises ongoing that I can just like to go back to and reference when I'm like kind of stuck, when like a bit isn't obvious, when I have an idea that seems funny,
Yep.
but the bit for it isn't obvious. I try to like go back to those like kind of like tricks, you know, where you like reverse engineer somebody else's joke, or
Yep.
yeah, go through like those type of things.
I can give you something that I do that I teach my class when I teach stand up. When I do, I call it the same method.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if you got a seed for a joke and you don't know where you're going with it, I was like, just do it the same way. SAME, same. And I was like, you're not going to use all 4 of these things, but like you can use 1 or 2 of them and hopefully something will pop out. So it's very similar to what you were doing. But the
Yeah.
same method that I put together is simplify. So it's like, can you break it down? Can you take something and be like, this is it's like the Brian Regan thing. It's like he had
Mhm.
the stomach virus, and she's like, what seems to be the problem? And he's like, everything on my inside wants to be on my outside.
Uh-huh.
So it's like oversimplify it, like
Yeah.
what's the simplest? And that's almost kind of like what I'm doing with the beginning of like the thing where I drag it out, where it's like, oh, we lost our dog, meaning he died, meaning we put him to sleep, meaning we paid someone to murder our dog. Like I break down what exactly happened. So
Yeah.
they're simplified. Then you could, and again, you're not going to do all of these things, but you might do one. So simplify, ask questions. So it's like you always want to ask why, or ask
Why?
them,
Yeah.
why would this happen? How does this happen? When other people do this,
What does this
like,
mean? Yeah. What does
what
this
did they
mean?
used to do? What does this mean? Yeah.
How did I feel about it? Why did I feel that way? What about me makes me feel that way? Yeah.
Yeah. So ask questions. The M is make rules. So like you make rules for the world. Like it's like, because when you put a dog to sleep, you have to do it this way. Or when this happens, this is what happens. It's like Brian Regan does a thing where like he, in that same bit, he does the thing where it's like he says that like, oh, like he talks about the oversight of there's no valet parking at the hospital, at the emergency room. Like,
yeah,
that's the one place where you need parking. Like he talks about that. And like, even he goes by the rules of like, he even breaks down and like gives a whole set of rules for like that, how would you rate your pain from a scale of 1 to 10? And he's like, I've heard that breaking your femur is the worst. So that's a 10. Then a 9 is like childbirth. And then you go down from there. So like he sets up this whole framework of rules. So it's make rules. And then finally is just exaggerate. The E part is exaggerate. It's like make something crazy, make it cartoonish, make it ridiculous. So it's like if you have a nugget of a bit, I think, and if you can, sometimes I think about like, can I simplify? Can I exaggerate? Can I ask questions? Can I make rules for it? That usually gets me somewhere.
Yeah, that is a good tool. I like that. Yeah, I always like, and I use that that Louis C.K. bit from his half-hour special that he closes with, where his kid just keeps asking him why, and it keeps getting like more and more specific but ridiculous. And it's just like, that's just a good like writing that if you just like keep asking yourself why, you're going to get like, why this? Okay, why that? Why this? You're going to get more specific, more weird, more like and more exaggerated like as you go along.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're going to go into places that you weren't expecting to go to either.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and then the crowd appreciates that because they're like, how did he get there? And it's by digging like that.
Yeah. So do you want to try like just kind of like going through the beats of the story, or like talking about the story, and I will like tell you when. It's very blurry behind me, but
is there a pet right there?
Yeah, there's
So there's not two cats. I'm assuming that's a mirror, right?
There's a mirror behind me. Yeah. I'm gonna try to unblur it for you.
Can you unblur it? Let's see that cat.
Oh,
of course he runs
left.
away. What's his name?
Webster.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, speaking of cats or pets at all, pets.
All right, so we'll go through the breakdown.
Yeah, just kind of go through.
So like I think I'll do the opening like where it's like, we lost our dog. He had he died, put him to sleep. We paid someone to murder our dog.
How does that do when you say it? Does that usually get like the right kind of laugh or response that you want?
I've probably done it maybe 5 times, and like I feel like I could be doing these numbers wrong, but I think like twice it like really hit hard, and it was like great. And then the other 3 times people were like, we're nervous about this. And then I just kind of like moved on from it,
Yeah.
I put the bit to sleep as
that's your saver line right there. Well, I'm gonna put this bit to sleep.
Yeah. So our dog, he was sick, and it was during the pandemic, and we didn't know
why was your dog sick? Is there a way to is there a way to explain that more? Like
he had a tumor, he had cancer, he had,
or is there like a funny or is there what I mean? Like
I'm trying to think. He had like his liver, he had a liver cancer. Like he wasn't a big drinker. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, he was a big drinker. Cirrhosis. He hit the bottle a lot. So he's like he got this, and like okay, by the way, so here we go. Maybe this is a thing. It's like how do dogs get that sick? He was like, he's like 10. Like, of course, I guess, kids can get sick or whatever, but it's like usually people like, what kind of life was he living? Like he was living a hard life.
Yeah, because like this is like more of a fact than a joke, but like how they say like cancer rates are like on the rise because of how people live. Like it's like, oh, because people live longer. Like if you get like super old, you're gonna get. But then it's also like what you like eat and drink and stuff. So I guess I don't know. With dogs, it's probably just an age thing. It's probably like the equivalent of being in your 70s or whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, maybe there's something with like the 7, like the 7-year like dog years or something like that. Like he's but yeah, he was living hard. And so he had that. He
started a meth lab when he found out that he
right. Yes. Yeah,
which explains my dog had cancer, which explains why he was making meth.
Yeah. You should have seen him in Malcolm in the Middle. He was great. So yeah, so then, so we literally had somebody come to the house to do it, which is like a horrible house call. And like, who has that? Oh, and by the way, I want to stop this too, because one of my favorite bits of all time is actually about putting a dog to sleep. It's the Dana Gould bit, the animal aftercare bit, which I don't want to delve into that too much. It's
okay.
One of the funniest bits. It's about him going and putting his dog to sleep at this hospital. And basically like the nurse was like, how do you do this? Like, how dare you? Basically, like, this is your job. Like, why would you do this? So I don't want to get into that too much because he does that.
Okay.
And then she's like, I'll have you know that we are very professional here. As a matter of fact, we're the only we're the only vet hospital in Southern California that is equipped to cremate horses. And then he goes on this whole cartoonish thing where he's like crying, but he's asking if he can come the next time they cremate a horse. Can he come?
Just can you watch
and watch it? And it goes to a crazy place that I won't give away.
That's
but
great.
It's so funny. So yeah, so I don't want to get too close to that. But like, so yeah, it's like they make house calls, which is
what
crazy.
about like the idea of like getting a little bit more into detail about like how you made the decision that it was time to call somebody? Like,
okay,
you have to ask yourself, like, what kind of questions do you have to ask yourself to know like when it's time to do that? I think that's possibly like, that does double duty of like, you can get to some punchlines in there and like what you're asking yourself. You can like do the like simplify thing where you like, simplify like the way that your dog's acting, like the and also like gets the audience on your side that like you really had to like like you didn't take it lightly, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that you like that you were emotional about it, you weren't like
yes. And like that, and that's the thing. And I kind of go into sometimes, and like I did this once or twice and it worked, but where I was like, I paid someone to murder a dog. Like I feel like I'm an accomplice. Like I have this guilty conscience of that. So like that kind of plays it out. And then I even say something about like how like if you can't do that with people, like we don't have that with people yet, or like there's certain places I guess you can, but like there's maybe like pulling the plug or whatever. But like the whole Kevorkian thing of like, it's like, oh, people should be able to do that. So it's like that's going to be a whole like, I don't know if I even go into that. Like if do we talk about people? But so yeah, so this lady came to the house. She showed up in a Jeep, which was weird. Like a Jeep seems like such like a fun kind of.
It did say it's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. That's what it's a Jeep thing means. That we murder dogs.
We murder dogs.
It's a Jeep thing that we murder dogs. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah. So she comes and she's like very nice. And
what if she wasn't?
Yeah. What if she was like, or like she was like funny or like sassy?
Yeah.
Like she was like, you don't want that. Like that's not like, yeah, you don't like, there shouldn't be jokes. Like maybe there should be, I don't know. But so like he's laying there, we have him on like this like blanket.
You should get to pick what kind of experience you want. Do you want like every dog murdering service should have like the opportunity to pick like, okay, I want like the sad person to come. I want the reverent person to come. I want the religious person to come. I want the funny person to come.
There's just a clown that shows up. Yeah. Or like a magician, maybe. It's like make him disappear.
Yeah, make him disappear.
Yeah. Maybe make it like a murder mystery kind of situation. Yeah. So like she comes and, it takes a little while. She does the thing with like the paw print, and then
How long like does it take from you ordering the hit on your dog till when she shows up?
it was, you schedule it, and it was like, I think it was like, we knew it was like towards the end. So we called, and it was like, I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 2 days where it's
Okay.
like, it was like a Monday, and then it was like, we can come Wednesday morning, so that was
Mhm.
like the thing. So, that's just the worst then, because
Yeah,
then
that
there's a
like
time
what?
frame. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a relief because at least we made the decision.
Yes, the
So it's like,
heart.
okay,
Yeah.
so that's done. But then now it's just like clock's ticking,
But then like
There's no,
any nice thing that happens in the next 2 days, like you know what I mean? Like if in the next 2 days your dog smiles, you're like, oh no, is it too?
oh, then that would happen. Like if you get up and like just kind of walking around, you're like, oh, he's fine, maybe. What, like what?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. So so she comes, and like the whole thing takes me, she's probably there. I could be wrong again, but like maybe like a half hour. Like it's a very
Mhm.
quick kind of situation. And she comes and gives him like, they basically give him like the one shot that like just kind of literally puts him to sleep, and then the other
Yeah.
one like that does the job. So and that's when we're there, and it was like very quiet, and she was like very nice about it. And then that's when I saw the neighbor up on the roof just staring down at us like a creep. And and I was just looking up, and then it was just kind of over, and she's like, all right. And then, by the way, she asked me, she's like, do you want to take him to the car? So she kind of like wrapped him up in this like blanket or whatever. And then
Mhm.
like I picked him up and like put him in the back of the car, which is just like, it's very nice, but it's like also I'm
Yeah.
doing her job, but it's also like the saddest way of ever packing a
Doing.
car before. It's like, not like you're going to the beach,
Yeah.
putting your bags in there. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think like what else. And then maybe go into like, then afterwards it's like, I like that idea of like, how long do you wait to get another dog? Because like
Mhm.
part of me wanted to like, let's get a dog tomorrow, but then part of me was like, no, you
Yeah,
gotta wait.
you need to have like some sort of like period of yeah, mourning where you actually like, get over like and mourn
Yeah. And
Stanley, and then yeah.
yeah, and then I got like, we waited like, I guess it was like 9 months, 8 months, something like that, and then we got the new guy.
Because like we all know people who like get out of relationships and then get into another one like way too fast, and
Yeah,
like you kind of wonder what they're like.
it's like, have a little respect. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, oh, were you just waiting for that last one to
yeah.
um yeah, I don't know, like I feel like there's like a yeah, like I don't know, I asked kind of all the questions that
I think there's great, and I think there's a lot of place. You definitely put me in a place where I'm like, I have a lot of avenues that I can go now.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's that's good. I feel like one of the things about this experimental podcast that I do is like sometimes it's like, oh, we're gonna like it's gonna be like a real good riff session, and we're just gonna be like ripping them off and like going like punchlines left and right.
yeah.
And then other times it's more like, well, here are like avenues you can
Oh, and
explore, and
no,
like here are
because this one you have
questions,
to
and like
wrap your head around a lot more. So I knew I wasn't getting, like, it's not going to be like, but I'm bum, right away. It's
yeah,
like, this is
yeah. I'm not
easy.
gonna come in making fun of dead Stanley.
Yeah, here's a rule of three joke right here, like
Yeah.
boom, boom. Yeah, you're not going to get that. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate you walking me through it, man. And I think, I think I have some homework to do now, Aaron.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing this sentimental, touching story with me that will certainly soon be also hilarious.
Yes, that's the goal. Well, thank you
Chip,
for helping me out, buddy.
please plug some things to people who are listening to this right now.
When is this going to be coming out? Do you know?
April 1st.
Oh,
This is set for April Fool's Day.
well, if you are listening on April 1st, tonight, I'm going to be at the Crossroads Comedy Theater, Mike Marbach's own Crossroads Comedy Theater at Theater Exile in South Philadelphia tonight, April
Nice.
1st. But other than that, please find me. I love followers. Find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Chip Chantry, all one word, ChipChantry. And you can check out my website and I have albums on iTunes and wherever, Apple Pod, all that stuff. So you can check that out.
Nice, Chip.
Aaron,
Thank you.
where can they find you?
Oh, well, they can find me at aaronhertzog.com. If they're listening to this, they've already found me.
Yeah, they have.
I'm at Aaron Hertzog on all the socials, and you can find me and Chip on the second episode of the Have You Heard This podcast, the paywall one, at patreon.com/Aaron Hertzog. And for everybody who's listening, because Chip sent you here, if you sign up for the Patreon this week while Chip's on the show, Chip gets half the money for all you new subscribers. So help Chip out.
We're gonna be rich.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy him up. I hopefully will buy Chip at least pizza, at least pizza or something for being on this show.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that means at least 4 new people, I think, sign up for the.
And this is by the way, this is a great podcast for just comedy fans, but like especially like newer comics, like to kind of hear and listen to how we get in and out and how you approach jokes. I think could be very helpful.
Yeah. So we're gonna be over there right now. It's available now. Patreon.com/Aaron Hertzog. And I'm also gonna drop the old episodes with Pete this week on the did I say Pete?
With Pete, yeah.
Did I say Pete?
Why
did I say Pete?
The one and only Pete Kemple.
I'm sorry, Chip. I just called you the name of a different friend.
That's okay. He's a good friend though, so it's good.
I think because Patreon is so close to Pete, the Patreon. I'm gonna drop the old classic archive episodes with Chip on there too. So there's not only going to be 1 bonus episode, there's going to be upwards of 3.
3, baby.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Check us out on patreon.com. Like, subscribe, do all those things, and follow Chip Chantry everywhere you can. Goodbye.